What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the German Bear Podcast. And today I want to talk about the next three picks that the Chicago Bears made after day one with picking Darnell Wright in the 2023 NFL Draft. Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears are doing a great job so far at day two of the 2023 NFL Draft, in my opinion. They picked three players, two in round two and one in round three so far, and maybe we could see a potential trade up back into round three, maybe later on in this round. But I mean, overall so far, the Chicago Bears selected three players, started off with pick 53 with Gervon Dexter, senior defensive lineman out of Florida, then moved back up from 61 to 56 and selected Tyrique Stevenson, cornerback out of Miami, and then the last pick was Zach Pickens, another defensive lineman out of South Carolina, selected with pick number 64. So overall, for all of those picks, we will talk about every single player, and I want to give you an analysis on what I saw on tape and what those players can bring to the team, because I think all of them are very, very underrated players. But overall, for those picks, I'm very happy with the Chicago Bears addressing the defensive line, especially the interior, because I think that was one of the biggest problems, because we had no rush from the interior at all, maybe Justin Jones at times, but very little. So you get two very talented players, but those guys can also defend the damn run, which was such a big problem for Chicago last year as well. And then that second cornerback spot with Tyrique Stevenson, I think that's a massive get as well. But with that being said, I don't want to waste any more time, and let's get right into it and talk about the first player that was selected in Gervon Dexter, senior defensive lineman out of Florida. And with the 6'6", 310-pound monster, the Chicago Bears, I think, in my opinion, made a very good pick here at 53. Now, for me personally, were there some better players on the board? I think one player that I would have loved to see was Tuli Tuipulotu out of USC, but Gervon Dexter Sr. is a very underrated player, and I think is a very undervalued player by many, many fans and just analysts as well around the NFL. So I think it's not that much of a reach. I think we could have done better. So for me, the grade for this one is a B-. But still, talking about Gervon Dexter, we're talking about a 6'6" player that has so many pros. Talking about his pass rush ability, which is probably the biggest thing was hit with him. He has incredible raw power to work with, very strong hands to dominate pass rush reps, and also just has the quickness and the closing speed to burst pass blockers, which is phenomenal at times on tape. I think he flashes a very nice bull rush that could definitely move over to the NFL as well and could be successful there too. And as well, just as he developed a quite nice swim move to complement that bull rush as well, which I love personally. And then just for him overall as a pass rusher, he has huge athletic upside. We're talking about a guy that had a 1.7 10-yard split, which is very, very good for his size, a 4.8 840-yard dash, and he's just one of the most talented three techs in this entire draft class. He might not be there yet, but I think by the end of the day and by the end of his career, he might be one of the best three techs that came out of this class. So that's always something we have to remember with those players. We're talking second round, third round. Those guys are not fully developed yet, but talent-wise, Gervon Dexter Sr. is one heck of a player. As for him in the run game, I think he plays with tons of balance in the run game, which I personally love. He has very good core strength and physicality, which is great too, which is something we need. And I think he's very good at shedding blocks and controlling the block rather than the other way around. So that's really good too. And then also just the agility to slip past linemen in the run game as well as a pass rusher too is phenomenal too. Just showing that agility, that movement that he can do at his size, which is pretty special, and then just winning in that way as well. As for his cons, he definitely has some. I think the biggest one is his get off. He has massive problems so far with the snap timing, but I think that's something that can definitely be fixed, and I think the Bears obviously thought something with picking Gervon Dexter here at 53, so I think they can definitely fix that in their opinions. Also, I think his pass rush repertoire could still develop to consistently win in the NFL, and he struggled against some double teams against the run, which is also a kind of a problem as well at the moment, but I think with his frame and weight, he could definitely grow into that role as well and compensate that later in his career. But overall, for Gervon Dexter, I think it's a phenomenal pick at 53. Not too much of a reach than maybe some people think. His best football is 100% ahead of him. He has so much pass rush upside. It's immense, and he should immediately be a very effective rusher early on in his career, which could develop into a very good 3-tack or potentially nose tackle as well with his frame. So with that being said, we want to move on to the second pick that happened, which was the 56th pick, and the Chicago Bears with that selected Tyrique Stevenson, cornerback out of Miami. And this is probably my favorite pick out of all of those 3 picks because I actually mocked him to the Bears at 53. He now went to the Bears at 56 after trading with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They got the number 61 overall pick, so we got a pick swap there in the second round. And the Bears also included a pick number 136 in the draft and sent that to the Jaguars. So a bit of a compensation that we had to give up, but I'm fine with that because we got probably the best player at the board at number 56 in Tyrique Stevenson. He's a 6', 198-pound cornerback who's just an excellent fit next to Jalen Johnson as the second outside cornerback because the Bears now basically confirmed that they want to keep Kyler Gordon, who's so talented as well, in the nickel, which is such a tough position to play, but we lack that second outside corner, which was such a big problem in my opinion because I'm not trusting Kindle Vildor. And I mean, if we're talking about Tyrique Stevenson for his pros, I mean, he has excellent length, maybe not that most or biggest corner with his height, but he has long arms, which definitely compensate that, and 6 foot is still pretty big for a corner nonetheless. Also, he's so physical at the catch point, always trying to make a play. In press man, he looked absolutely phenomenal on tape. He has a first punch in press too, which is so powerful, and it just plays with the wide receiver's rhythm out of his stance. Also, very good speed and footwork to stick with the routes and the hips of the wide receiver too, and it has a very good T-step already to trigger downhill fast too, against a run, against screens, whatever it is, but that's pretty phenomenal too. And then I just absolutely love the aggressiveness and physicality as a run defender and a tackler overall. So that's just a perfect fit to the hits principle of Matt Eberflus and the defense, and just adds another really good playmaker, which just complements that secondary so perfectly. As for his cons, I mean, he definitely has to get a bit more consistent, work on his technique too, and at times he gets caught looking in the backfield, which can cause some coverage busts, but that's nothing out of this world that can't be fixed. And I think Tyrique Stevenson, as I maybe have to grade him here, or I want to grade him here, I think that's definitely an A signing or A draft pick here for the Chicago Bears at 56, getting one of the most talented cornerbacks here, and I absolutely love it. And with that being said, we want to move on to the last pick that we want to talk about today in this video, which is the other defensive lineman that we selected with the 64th overall pick, Zach Pickens, interior defensive lineman out of South Carolina. And I think some people definitely got upset that the Chicago Bears went defensive line again, but I have to say I absolutely love the second defensive line pick even more than Gervon Dexter Sr. At 6'4", 291 pounds, the Chicago Bears got one of the bigger talented defensive linemen in this entire draft class, in my opinion. Getting into his pros right away, I think against the run, what I absolutely love is his strength and anchor against the run, especially on one-on-one blocks. He has really good gap control, in my opinion, and it's just a very gap-sound player. He seems to always control the rep against the offensive lineman. Also has great strength and power to drive back into the backfield and breaking up runs for tackles for losses, which was really good on tape too. And then he also just easily sheds blocks against the run with ease. As for him as a pass rusher, I think he also plays with incredible power and strength. He has a really good get off, unlike Gervon Dexter, and the snap timing is really good off the line as well. He always is active with the hands and has constant leg drive, always trying to make a play, always showing hustle, and has some really dominant bull rush reps that he showed on tape as well. He's a very agile mover, just like Dexter, which helps him to slip around blockers, evading the first punch of the offensive lineman to win with quickness as well. And then also has a really good underrated ability to set up stunts, which is overall just a very underrated ability for a defensive lineman. And then also flashed a one-arm bull rush move where he uses the access to the lineman's chest, drives through with power, and then just gets to the quarterback. And then lastly, has a very high motor as well, which I love to always see the effort plays by defensive linemen. So overall for Zacch Pickens as a grade, I would grade this as an A- draft pick. I think that's definitely a valid situation and valid draft pick for Zacch Pickens in a very good situation, and he could definitely develop into a very versatile player that can line up at 3-tack or nose tackle and become a 3-down player for the Chicago Bears. He has huge pass rush upside. He's a player that has just all the athletic and physical capabilities to be, in the future, maybe a Pro Bowl caliber defensive lineman. I truly believe that right away. And like I said, absolutely love this pick. So overall, for the mid-rounds, I think the Chicago Bears absolutely killed it. I think the first pick, Gervon Dexter Sr., maybe was a bit of a reach, but I honestly like both those guys more than Adetomiwa Adebawore, which might be an unpopular opinion, but I think that was a really good decision right there by the Chicago Bears to just beef up the trenches, go with the two best players that you personally like to fit into your system, and I think both of them could be very good players in the future that can just both rotate with nose tackle and 3-tack reps. So I love that. And then you get a really, really good cornerback in Tyrique Stevenson for your defense as well. And with that being said, that's the end of the episode, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. Definitely let me know in the comments down below what you think of the Chicago Bears choices in round 2 and round 3. Like and subscribe if you liked the video. Check out Instagram and Twitter if you want to as well. And as always, guys, bear down.